Hi everybody, I'm Scott Davenport, and in this ON1 short clip, I'm going to show you how with just a few filters and effects can really make our subject of our photo pop. I've got this photo of these mailboxes here, and I like it, but of course, looking at the image, the mailboxes are a little bit shadowy. They need to jump out of the scene a little bit more. So I'm in Effects, and I'm going to start with an adjustment brush, which may seem a little unusual. I'm going to use the adjustment brush fundamentally as things I might do in Enhance or in other tools just to open up the shadows some. When I apply the adjustment brush, by default, it applies a black mask, so there's no change to the image. I'm going to click on the mask here in the filter panel, hit invert. Now you can see this really suddenly get bright because this brightness slider is way up here. I'm going to take that down a little bit. Now, as I'm adjusting the slider, I'm paying attention to just the mailboxes. That's really what I want to accentuate here and brighten up. And maybe even add a little bit more warmth, too. So again, watching the mailboxes. All right, that's pretty good. Now, what's happened here, it's certainly blown out the sky a little bit. So I'm going to go into the blending options. These are really, really powerful. And there's these protect sliders. I'm going to start playing with protecting the highlights and skin, which is effectively the midtones. And this will be a little bit of a tug of war, seeing, okay, if I push the highlights up, you can see that up in the sky here, things are coming back into range. Maybe skin down here, because if I push the skin up too high, we're going to see a lot more of those shadows come back in. So somewhere maybe around there or so looks pretty good. All right, so be quick before and after. So just the adjustment brush, but I'm applying it globally. I'm kind of using it as almost like an exposure tool. Why? Well, I know I'm going into Effects. It's here. I can use it and save myself jumping to another tool or another module. All right, now let's start getting into some accentuation here and getting the mailboxes to pop out. Dynamic contrast for sure. That in and of itself is a very nice touch. Let me bump the larges up just a little bit. And perhaps the smalls too. Something I'll do sometimes too is I'll hit the smalls up really, really far just to see what area of the image it's affecting. And you can see it's really touching the foreground, right? So when I adjust those smalls up just a little bit, I know that I'm really adding a little punch to my mailboxes and not anything else. That's looking pretty cool. Let's go on to color. So we'll add a color enhancer. And the auto setting, that seems to be a little bit bright. I'm going to pull that down some, maybe into this range about here. And it does seem like I have a bit of a greenish cast. I'm looking at this center mailbox, and it looks a little greener than I would normally like. So I'm going to adjust the tint and just nudge that over a little bit until that center mailbox looks pretty good. I can't go too far because this mailbox on the right, that's definitely got greens in it. And of course the grass. So something in that neighborhood's pretty nice. And I do want to pop a little bit more of the blues and the grass, the greens. Now for greens, this may be a little counterintuitive, but actually taking yellows and shifting the hue. Watch down here on the grass. If I revert that to nominal, I'll put it up really far. You can see the grass go almost, thermonuclear. We don't want to do that. But shifting the yellows in those underpinnings of the green tones of the grass really make those greens come through. And also I want to get some more blue into the sky. So I'm going to go over to the blue range. Maybe pop saturation up some. And maybe even shift the hue a little bit to a little richer blue. Like that. And this is to taste, so just fiddling with the sliders until I like the look of what's going on in the sky over here. Cool. All right, a couple more things to really drive home the mailboxes. This is where I want your eyes to go. Let's add a little bit of sharpening. So we'll add the sharpening. Now that's really, really strong. There's two things I want to do here. One is I don't want to sharpen the sky. I just want to sharpen the mailboxes. So let's grab the masking bug. And I'm going to use the edges shape. Now what that does, and I place the bug onto the picture, edges means mask the effect away from the edges. Press the O key. You can see where the red is, I am not sharpening. So now I can just shrink the size of the bug, rotate it around a little bit, And the mask doesn't need to be perfect. I'm going to have actually quite a nice healthy feather there so that I'm not over sharpening things. And I also want to tone down that sharpening. At opacity 100% is very strong. So I'm actually going to start down pretty darn low. And I'll just kind of click around here until I settle somewhere that I like. While my finger is sliding this slider back and forth, my eyes are watching the mailboxes. That's really what I need to pay attention to, not the number, what the resulting look is. Right around 29, as it turns out, looks pretty good. All right, last but not least, well, vignette. So we'll add another filter, choose vignette. And the way I like to work with vignettes is I'll lower my feather, lower the brightness very far so I can see where the edge of the vignette is. I'm going to use the crosshairs tool and position the vignette. I'm clicking and dragging to get that down lower. So I'm going to emphasize and draw the eyes down to the lower part of the frame. That looks good. Increase the feather back up and then start adjusting the brightness, maybe even the roundness a little bit, so that I'm pulling in from the corners and just making this the brightest part of the image so our eyes will be naturally drawn there. All right, let's kind of review here, run it down from bottom to top. So initial image that came in, added an adjustment brush layer but applied it globally so that I brightened up the shadows but kept the highlights and midtones in check by using the blending options. We added some contrast, adjusted color and got rid of a little bit of that green color cast, punched up the blues and the greens a little more, some sharpening to the foreground, and finally a vignette. So add it all together, before and after. So just a few things can really accentuate your subject. My name's Scott Davenport, and thanks very much for watching.